Okay, well, number 23 is another winger, and we're talking about Aberdeen winger Connor McLennan. I think we're both big fans of Connor McLennan, James. I think we've talked about him quite a lot. We certainly have talked about Aberdeen a lot this season, and McLennan is a player that does seem to come up a lot. Do you want to jump straight in with this one again and just kind of lay out your argument?
Yeah, so I think that with McLennan, it's strange because I actually think that last season was probably much better for him than this one. He's been sort of in and out of the team. It's been a wee bit stop start for him, and I think bringing in Matty Kennedy in the summer is probably, you'd imagine, is probably going to slow his progression into the first team. Becoming a real regular there. But I mean, last season, I think I've said this before. I'll probably keep on saying it, but he had the third most assists in the league last season of any player. Only Callum McGregor and Tavernier had more assists last year in the league, which is impressive considering the fact that McLennan wasn't even playing a lot. Again, last season he had one of the highest crossing success rates in the league. He had about, I think it was like 43% or something like that, which again is that might not sound great, but again that is one of the highest rates in the league. This year he's not played as much, and his assist rate has tailed off a bit. I mean, he's only got one assist. I think he's made 18 appearances in all competitions, but he has got 3 goals, which is something that was maybe lacking from his game before. And kind of similar to McAllister, he's one of these guys who has slotted in different areas of the pitch. He's been played up front sometimes. He's been played on the wings. I think he's best on the wings because I think he's got that pace and that real drive when he's going forward. I think he's a very good dribbler of the ball, and I think that he's one of these guys who there is a lot of potential there. Like last season, I was absolutely raving about him. He's maybe fallen off the radar a little bit this year compared to last, but I do think that there's certainly a very exciting player in there, and I just hope that because you look at the wingers Aberdeen now have on the books, they've now got Niall McGinn, Matty Kennedy, Ryan Hedges. These are all guys who are going to expect to play, whereas McLennan's position might be immediately under threat, and that there might not be a clear path to him for a year or maybe 2 years until he properly breaks into that team. But certainly always been keeping a close eye on him because I think that he is a really, really exciting talent. I think last season I had him down as one of my young players of the year. I thought I was really, really excited with him, and I just want to see more of him, but I'm just worried that I might not.
Yeah, I think he's been really let down by a lack of kind of support from McInnes in the first half of the season. And I was just kind of looking through how the start of the season went for him, and in Aberdeen, in his first 12 appearances in the Premiership this season, he only made 3 starts, and those 3 starts were away to St Mirren, which Aberdeen lost second weekend in the season, which I remember covering that game, and it was a really, really grueling match. It was a terrible day in Paisley. St Mirren were showing, this was like maybe one of their first few signs of how dogged they were going to be this season, and they really just squeezed every single bit of kind of attacking football out of that game. It's a horrible, horrible match for a young winger to basically try and prove his worth. His next start came a month later away to Rangers, where Aberdeen got thumped 5-0. And then his next start after that came a few weeks later when they were at home to Celtic. So his 3 starts out of over the course of like 2 or 3 months were St Mirren away, Rangers away, and then Celtic at home. And in between that, he was either an unused player on the bench or he came on for about 20, 15 minutes. And as you've kind of said, it didn't really work out for him, and it did. And I agree with you. It was almost as if, well, what's happened to Connor McLennan? Where's the guy that was there last season? And to be fair to the kid, I don't think it was a lot of it was really down to his own fault. It just seemed as though McInnes was really trying to figure out different tactics. He's been trying to rebuild his squad all course of the season, and McLennan got pushed to one side there. One thing that really interests me though, and interesting what you think on this, but despite Matty Kennedy coming in January, I actually think McLennan's looked a lot better since the turn of the year. He got his goal against Livingston just before the start of the new year, but he's also he's picked up about like 3 goals and assists in his last 6 games in the Premiership. Picked up a really important one against Hamilton, and I think there's also, and that Livingston actually game I think was at home to Pittodrie was one that Aberdeen really had no right to win, but I think it was he and maybe Ryan Hedges that got the goals that day. And 2 weeks before the season kind of was postponed, he picked up a goal and assist in the draw against Kilmarnock. And I find it quite interesting that as the season's gone on, I think he's actually kind of slowly but surely gone back to the kind of player that he showed he was last season. And I think there's a huge amount of room for him to kind of move into here in this Aberdeen team. You're not wrong in saying there's a lot of players in those positions: Matty Kennedy, Niall McGinn, Ryan Hedges, John Gallagher and stuff like that. But even if you look at those four names, there's the only one who's really there, and the only one who will probably really be able to demand a starting spot next season is Matty Kennedy, in my opinion. Ryan Hedges has been okay, he's been hot and cold. Gallagher is the same. I don't think McInnes really has any sort of obligation to be picking these guys first and foremost next season. Obviously, Niall McGinn's been a fantastic servant for Aberdeen, and he's had a bit of a resurgence this season, so he maybe will be getting starting positions next year, depending on how he looks in 6 months' time. But there's maybe only two players there who should be ahead of McLennan, in my opinion, in the pecking order. And since they're both playing in separate positions, you can argue make that there's always going to be opportunities for them there. So I totally agree with you that there's maybe been a bit of a dip this season compared to last season. But what I would argue is that factors haven't really been within his control. And when he's been getting a kind of run of games, between the turn of the year and where we are now, he has quickly began to look like the player he was last season. And I think going into the next season, or these last 8 or 9 games, if we ever do get around to playing them, I'd expect a lot more from him. And as you said, there's a huge amount of potential there that's just waiting to be fulfilled.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I think it's interesting that I think I'm right in saying as well that on a couple of occasions this season, McInnes has tried sort of experimenting with him in a sort of wing back role, which that's interesting. I'm not entirely sure he's got the defensive attributes for it, but then he's young. That's and McInnes is an excellent coach, especially when it comes to defenders. So you would expect that that's something he could maybe learn going forward. But yeah, I mean, you are right. That's something I hadn't actually noticed. But in his last 6 games, he's got 3 goals and 1 assist, and that's before that he hadn't recorded anything in the league this season. But as I say, I think the main problem right now facing him is just the lack of game time he's getting. Like last season, he finished the year with about 1,500 minutes or something like that. This year it's about 800 or so he's had. Okay, there's still 8 games to go, so the figures might just about marry up by the end of it. But based on the season so far, he's probably going to end up playing fewer minutes this year than he did last, which is surprising given that you probably want him to give him more minutes, surely. So I just hope we do get to see more of him, and it's encouraging to see that since the turn of the year he has been playing a bit more often. He's had a few starts, and I think that's obviously the most important thing for his development. I think Aberdeen's probably the best place for him because I think that he is absolutely good enough to be a very effective player at that level. For a team challenging for 3rd, 4th in the Premiership, but he just needs more game time. And it must be quite frustrating for him because, as we keep saying, there's undoubtedly talent there, but he just needs to be given a platform in order to go and express it, and hopefully that's something we see more of.